Hey guys, happy Sunday. Welcome back to Speaking 360. What are we going to be talking about today? Well, I've got a pro tip for you. We're going to be looking at how you can use other people's stories ethically, though, not to how you can steal them, how can you pretend they're yours, but how can you use them ethically? Because you definitely don't want to steal anyone's stories. You don't want to pretend that the stories that you're sharing are yours when they're not. And you definitely don't want to steal somebody else's stories and share them when you're on the same platform. That's not going to work, is it? Of course. But there is a way that you can do it ethically. There is a way that you can use other people's stories ethically, and you can honor whosever story it is, and you can help the audience, and it looks good for you as well. It helps you be interesting, because you have to hold the audience's attention. If you're going to hold the audience's attention, you need to be interesting. And so examples are a great way to do that, and your kind of key asset as a communicator is your stories. Now, I know many of you are thinking, well, I'm not sure I've got that many stories, Roddy. We've been through this before, haven't we? Yes, you have. Yes, you have. You've got plenty of stories. You just don't see it that way. In fact, all new speakers, when they start out, there's three objections that I hear over and over and over again, the world over. Number one, I don't like hearing my voice. Don't make me listen to my voice. Number two, I don't like seeing myself on video, so don't make me see myself on video. And number three, I don't have any stories. I don't have any stories. And it's just not true. You do. You have all the stories that you need. You really do. You just need to know how to find them and then how to kind of shape them. But that takes a little bit of time. It takes time to find stories and to shape them and to turn into something that you can use, to turn them into those assets that you see other speakers using. So what do you do in the meantime? What do you do in the meantime? Well, you can use other people's stories if they've affected you in some way. So if there's some kind of impact that they've had on you, if those stories have made a difference to you, then it's okay to share your story. But it becomes your story if you think about it. It's somebody else's story, but because it's impacted you, it's had an effect on you, then it becomes your experience. And so that's what you're doing. The key to it really is personalizing their story. So from your perspective, the audience wants to hear from you. So it's your perspective. How do you personalize the story? And really, that's as simple as saying, right, well, how has this story affected me? How did it, what impact did it have on me? How am I different because of this? What's changed? How do I feel differently? How do I think differently now? What am I doing differently after hearing this story? All of these things are so important. They really are to helping the audience. And you see how it's your experience when you look at it like this. So let's say you see John Maxwell speak, and he shares a story, and you're like, oh my goodness, and the world is never the same again for you after that moment. And if it's not John Maxwell, it's Tony Robbins, or who we've all got kind of people who've impacted us, haven't we, in our lives. And so if you share your experience and the difference it's made to you, it can really help other people. Let me give you a simple example. It's often the best way, isn't it? This was years back when we lived in England and went to a sports club, a golf club, health club. So there was a gym there. Susan and I went in and we saw a friend of ours, and she'd had like half of her face was all burned. I went, what's happened to you? She said, well, I was practicing for swimming the Channel, and she was swimming, I think it was in Lake Windermere, somewhere up north in the Lake District, and she swam for like 6 or 8 hours. So I got up early in the morning, swam all day, but she was only breathing on one side. So the sun is just like shining on one side of her face. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. But the thing that really got my attention was she's training to swim the Channel. Now, the Channel, if you don't know, the English Channel, it's one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world. It's 21 miles from Dover to Calais at its narrowest. And that's the bit that the people try and cross. And it's freezing cold. You're not allowed to wear a wetsuit. So it's just, you in your bathing suit. So this is what she was training for. I was very impressed. Anyway, months later, we saw her again and said, well, how did it go? And she's like, oh, my goodness. It was a nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare. I was like, well, what happened? Well, she's there on, in Dover on the beach, and just like 4 o'clock in the morning, it starts getting ready to set off. The support boats there, off they go. It's really windy, so she's swimming downwind of the support vessel. So the fumes from the boat are blowing in her face, and within about 10 minutes, she starts throwing up. So she's like, whoa, and she's being sick as she's swimming, and every 10 minutes, whoa, she's throwing up. In no time at all, there's nothing left in her stomach. Everything's kind of come out. She said it was down to the bile, and then past the bile, and there was nothing but still like retching uncontrollably. But nothing coming out. She said it's like that. We've all experienced that. But imagine that you're you're treading water at the same time while you're doing this. So it was like awful. She said, I really wanted to give up right away, but I knew everyone was watching back at home. They were watching the tracker. So the boat had a tracker in it so they could see progress. So she said, I had to keep going. For like 4 hours, this was happening. She's stopping every 2 minutes, couldn't eat anything, couldn't drink anything. And she's, she's stopping and being sick. She said the white cliffs of Dover just did not seem to disappear. They're there all the time. Anyway, after about 4 hours of swimming and throwing up and swimming, she got stung by jellyfish all over her arms and her legs. And she said, it was really painful, but in a bizarre way, it kind of helped because it took my mind off of the vomiting. Listening to this, thinking, oh my goodness, then on she goes. Then she's into the shipping lanes. So you go past the first one and then past the second one, then you're kind of over the other side, more than halfway, and she's swimming. But because all the time there's stopping with the vomiting, she's getting further and further behind schedule. Then she said she moved to the other side of the boat, so without the fumes, because she had support swimmers jumping in and swimming alongside her. They would do a mile, she'd do a mile on her own, then the next one would jump in and do a mile. So she said, it didn't matter that it was wavy, because I wasn't looking where I was going, I was just watching them, so just swimming and looking at them. Making a bit more progress. Now, suddenly she can see the French shoreline. So she's like making progress, but she's so far behind schedule, the tide is now coming out and it's carrying her off faster than she's moving in. And she said, this is the point where many people give up right here because it's so soul destroying. It's like, oh, I can't do this. I can't go on. I can't bear it. So people give up. But she kept going. She said, I put my head down. And for the next 2 hours, I swam as fast as I possibly could. Gave it everything I've got. And then she said it seemed like a few hours after that, I was scrambling up the rocks and I was onto French soil, and that was it. It was done. And I'm like, what a heroic tale of persistence. So powerful, isn't it, when you hear that? And she's kind of looking a little bit kind of, looking down. I said, don't you think that, you're not proud of what you do? You think this is amazing. And she said, well, everyone was watching. They were following me, so I couldn't give up. I had to give it all I've got. So that's not really where the persistence is. And I said, well, what do you mean? She said, well, the persistence comes from the training. It's the 6, 8, 12-hour swims that you do in training that really makes a difference. That's where the persistence comes in for like years, for 10 years, 20 years. That's the persistence. That's the bit that makes a difference. And I thought, that is so true, isn't it? I never forgot that lesson. Because if you think about it, it's true. Anyone can do their best when everyone's watching, can't they? Many people tell me they like speaking in front of an audience. They much prefer to speak in front of an audience. They prefer that to training. And I'm sure they do. Anyone can do their best when anyone's watching. But the fact is, if you haven't done the work, then your best may very well not be good enough. But if you do the work, if you keep going, then there comes a point where your best is good enough. And if you're growing, it's just a matter of time, isn't it? So I thought that was a great story. So you see how that is somebody else's story. It's not my story, but it's impacted me. It's changed me. It's affected me. So I've taken like a slightly different point as I'd interpreted it from what she was talking about. And I use that story a lot when I'm speaking. So it's somebody else's story. I'm not pretending it's mine. I'm not making up stories that didn't happen and pretending they happened. I'm honoring the person whose story it is, and I'm sharing the story. And I'm telling you how it affected me and how I'm different. So I've personalized it. So I think it's okay to do that, personally. Let me know what you think in the comments. What do you think about using your stories? What do you think about using other people's stories? Put it in the comments and let's see. Also, if there's other topics that you'd like us to cover each week, then put those in the comments as well. We'd love to cover them. In fact, this story today was a comment that Dustin put in the comments. So thanks for that. Appreciate that. And that was why we decided to talk on this topic today. Now, do us a favor. We would love it. We asked, the last few weeks now, we've been asking you to subscribe, and it's made an enormous difference. The number of subscribers has gone up by, 1,500 or something in the last week or so. So thank you so much for subscribing. We'd love you to like the YouTube videos as well and posts, and to comment. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know what you like. We'd love you to share them as well. And most importantly, of course, if you haven't subscribed, then please subscribe. That helps us get these free videos out to more and more people, which is great. And if you just want to share the email where it sends out the YouTube video, then speaking360.com is the link for that. Thank you so much for your support. I hope this is helpful. You can use your stories for other people as you collect them, but in the meantime, maybe there's stories that have affected you that you can share. Even John does this. Even John Maxwell does this, by the way. He shares, you've seen the French fry story. He's talking about somebody else and their son, but it's made such an impact on him. He shares it, and he shares it brilliantly. He honors them, but he helps the audience with the point. And it is a great story. That's one for another day. That's it for this week, guys. We'll see you soon. Thanks for being a part of Speaking 360. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done already. Lots of love. Take care. Bye-bye. God bless.